Hey YouTube! Pulse Code Inc., the makers of Rhythm Studio, have released Modular Synthesizer for iOS. This works on both iPad and iPhone, and it is a full-on modular synthesizer. If you've got any kind of interest in synthesis, you're going to love this because you get to drag and drop the parts of the synthesizer that you want. You know, if you want more LFOs or more oscillators or whatever, you just drag them over and it's there. It's really cool, and it's free to try out. The free comes with a whole bunch of different free modules that you can, assign and do all kinds of great stuff with. But I'm going to show you how to do that, because it's not an obvious sort of thing. Nothing in modular synthesis is particularly intuitive. So I'm going to explain how to do something really damn impressive with just the free modules. Before I jump into this, I want to make a couple of disclaimers. I'm using a pre-release build to do this video before the app is actually released so that you guys can see this tutorial on the release day. So if there's any weirdness, hopefully that's just pre-release code, and by the time this is released, any sort of weird glitches are completely sorted. And I'm using my MIDI keyboard to do all note input, so I don't have to scroll down here to actually touch things. I can just be looking up here and trigger it with my keyboard. So with that said, this is what I'm going to make for you, a 6 oscillator synth using just the free stuff. And all the green stuff here is stuff you have to pay for. It's like $1 a piece, or you can buy the bundle, which is $5. But let's get going here. I'll show you briefly the settings where you can change the tempo or MIDI learn things, and that's really helpful. Like, you can learn different MIDI assignments for knobs and change wire colors and enable background audio and all this. And to start a patch, go up here and hit the plus sign and new. You get to name it 6 free oscillators. And now you get this blank thing with a basic keyboard module here, which you're going to need to control everything with, as well as your output. So when thinking about modulars, you need to always be considering how your signal is flowing around, because you have complete and utter control over everything here, right? So just throwing in an oscillator, you're not hearing anything because it's not plugged out to here. But now you're still not hearing anything, even though I'm using my keyboard. And the reason for that is we're not giving it a keyboard input. So I'm going to drag this out over to here. But now it's like this constant tone, right? And that's going to get real fast. So I'm going to turn that off. And the reason for that is we're not telling it when to play and when not to play. We're just telling it to play this note with these two indicators here. And to tell it when to play and when not to play, that's when we would use a gate. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let's throw in a whole bunch of oscillators and I'll show you how all this works together. So you see, our first problem is, now that we've got 6 oscillators, we've only got one of these outputs here from the keyboard. So in order to connect it to all 6 of the oscillators, we're going to need splitters, and we're going to need a lot of splitters. I'm going to use 3 to split the signal here. So I'll take that, plug it in over here, and I can plug this in over here and here, but you see I need another splitter. And I'm going to plug this splitter into this splitter. And this splitter into this splitter. Now we need to somehow get all of these outs in, because like right now I'm sending it keyboard commands and it's sending that keyboard up to the splitters, and then it's splitting out into all 6 of these oscillators. But now we need to get all of the outs from all these oscillators into this input here. And for that, we're going to switch over to mixers. Move this mixer over here. And now we're taking all the outs and wiring it in the exact opposite way that we were doing the splitters. And now I'm taking the output from those two mixers and plugging them in over here into this other mixer. So now I can control the top row with this knob and the bottom row with this knob. And now if I plug this out, we're hearing things. Now we're not hearing a lot of distinction here because all of them are playing the same saw at exactly the same note. So that's not interesting at all. Let's make this interesting. I'm going to pop this up and switch it to a saw. I'm going to pop this up. Now I'm trying to keep these to being plus and minus 3 semitones just to keep them close to each other. And over here, I'm going to leave it at 0 octave and drop it. And here I'm leaving it at 0 and dropping it just to 3. So now we got all kinds of different stuff going on. And you can actually hear all 6 of those oscillators. But wow, that gets really annoying when you don't have something controlling the input. So let's stop doing that immediately and throw in something here to control when it's going to signal. And we use an amplifier for that. And you see this has this CV. And that's where you want to plug in a gate to. So if we take our out from that, our gate into here, and our out to our output, and change our initial level to 0, by cranking up the CV amount, this gate now, when I press a key on my keyboard, is sending basically a 1. And as soon as I release the keyboard, it sends a 0, essentially. It stops sending 1s. And as long as this CV input is receiving, is receiving a input, it's going to be pumping it by however much I've set it here in the CV amount. And since its initial level is 0, and I'm telling it to go up to 100, it's going from nothing, as you're hearing now, to full on. But that's not particularly interesting when it's just the stabby sound. You know, we can do a lot better than that. And for that, I'm going to use a envelope generator. So now I'm taking the gate from our keyboard module and plugging it straight into the gate of the envelope generator. And I'm taking that out back into here. So now I've got a full-on ADS for controlling and shaping the sound. So if I pump up the attack, you hear how it's slowly rising like any ADSR kind of situation would be. I can make this kind of bouncy and fun. Let me switch this over to a square. Oh shit, I left these on try. Let me switch these over to saw. Alright. Alright. Now we're getting a lot of frequencies with all these saws, right? So let's try to shape down some of that because there's like just a lot of going on. And I'm going to throw in a filter to help do that. If I can find it. There's a lot of modules in here. And look at how many you get for free, like even delay effects. Let's see. and two different types of envelope generators. LFO. There we go. All right, so I'm going to plug in this now over here. And now we got the filter in between our mixer and our VCA. And you'll see that even the filter has one of these CV inputs. So that means we can take any of the control signals that we're using and control it with the CV amount. So let me just do a really kind of basic thing here where I'm going to take our envelope generator that's already doing this decay thing here. I'm going to throw in another splitter. And now I'm going to take the output of this envelope. I'm going to send one of these over here to the filter and another one over to the VCA. And now, if I shape this down and crank up the CV amount, so now that this is controlling this, I can dramatic. So all of that was done using just the free modules. This is a great way to get your foot into the door with this and play around with it. And when you feel like you understand what's going on here, because I know I've been trying to run through this because this is already going to run for like 10 minutes or something. But when you get your feet wet and you're playing around with this and you get the idea that everything is controlled with these different types of controls and control voltages and signals and things like that, it's a really fun way to just explore and do different and interesting things besides making a super saw here. In fact, I'm going to do a second video for this in which I get into some of the premium modules and show how you can use different ways to shape the signals and explain the different types of signals that you have to work with.